I actually unfollowed you for a couple months at one point because
me losing with you is on me, not you.
I'm sitting down with Gary Vaynerchuk, the guy who turned a New Jersey liquor store into a billion-dollar brand and then did it all over again with his agency. Gary has over 38 million followers on social media and a net worth estimated over $200 million.
So I don't dwell on my micro losses. I think they set up my macro wins.
I asked him point blank, how would he get rich if he was just starting out today?
You should create an AI dog and build up the dog and then monetize the AI dog.
My name's Uptin. I got laid off, built 3 million followers, sold my agency, and today I'm sitting across from Gary Vee. This is What's Uptin. So I got laid off and I started my own channel. Now I have 3 million followers. And then I started an agency where we do UGC content for brands.
Good for you.
So I had a bunch of clients. And I just got acquired this week actually by Augustus Media. You talked to them this morning with Richard.
Congrats.
So yeah, we're going to do a signing tomorrow.
Good.
And it's like official. Basically, I felt like I was torn between my agency and my personal brand. And I don't want to look back and say I did two things well. I want to do one thing really good.
Good for you.
Do you think I made the right move?
I think it's clear in the way that you're delivering your sentence that you made the right move for you. Yes. I don't think there's a right way. Like, I do 7 things.
Yeah.
And to your point, if I picked one, I probably would do that thing so remarkable. But for me, I'm not trying to maximize the financial impact. I get joy of juggling 7. But every person does things for different reasons. And so I think to your point, the energy I get from you when you're delivering what you just delivered, I think for you, someone who's been on TV and things of that nature, the North Star for you around your personal brand is much more clear. Plus, you know this. I definitely know that I've been doing it for 15 years. Having an agency and having clients, that's a grind. It's a different thing. And there's a hell of a lot more joy in building your own thing for yourself, especially when it's around you for most people than the grind of client services. So yeah, I think it sounds right on paper.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs have shiny object syndrome where you have an idea, you have another idea, you're in the middle of an idea and then you go and buy that, new URL.
Yep.
And I remember when I was laid off, I bought like 4 or 5 domain names. And I remember my biggest fear was like, what about in 1 year when I get an email saying, do you want to renew these? My biggest fear was looking back and being like, oh yeah, what happened to those? So do you see that right now with a lot of like newer entrepreneurs? And do you have that?
Yeah, of course I do. I mean, I think anyone who's an entrepreneur has that. I mean, I think it's one of the great gifts of being an entrepreneur is that your creativity, your delusional optimism, your curiosity, I think these are strengths. In American baseball, if you get 3 hits out of every 10 at bats, you go to the Hall of Fame. And I've always thought about that. In UFC, everybody loses, for the most part. I think entrepreneurship's the same way. I mean, I've probably spent tens of thousands of dollars in my career on wasted URLs. I probably haven't done that in a long time. I've realized that ideas can be fleeting, but I view that as a strength. The way I think about business, or especially if you're a purebred entrepreneur, is you're inherently creative, you're inherently curious, and, the collateral damage of micro losses of websites you registered you never executed on is a byproduct of your actual gift. And so I don't dwell on my micro losses. I think they set up my macro wins.
Interesting. So I got to be honest with you, Gary. I actually unfollowed you for a couple months at one point because of the hustle culture content. And it was like, if you have time to watch Netflix, you have time to build a business, and it would stress me out. This is maybe 4 years ago. I'm following you again. I love it. But have you shied away or leaned back a little bit on that hustle culture?
I'm always empathetic to that statement, but, in this format, I think you'll appreciate this. Like, I don't think it was ever a significant piece of my content. I think what's great about making content is it's all there. I think that if we did a forensic audit on my content, I think that was a popular narrative of the media a little bit around me that I felt was unfair. I put out and in literally the words out of my last interview, 20% of the conversation, I said that hard work was part of the equation to building something meaningful. But I think the hustle porn or hustle culture tag on me was lazy and, more importantly, was grounded in one viral post on Medium that was littered with falsities, where the writer quietly and privately has apologized to me. And that hung around. But do I think hard work is part of the equation to build something? Yes. Do I think that I've always talked about sleeping 7-8 hours a day? Yes. Do I believe that every other word out of my mouth is be self-aware and figure out what makes you happy? Yes. Do I think that I talk more about the process than the actual gifts? Yes. Do I talk about not having Lamborghinis and watches and Rolexes and private planes? Yes. So, for me, it's always been very balanced. I'm very empathetic and very respectful of when people decide they do want to follow me, they don't want to follow me. I think what's really interesting about me is I think I get very to the heart of matters. So I feel like when people unfollow me, for example, especially someone who has a sense of me, I think they themselves are in a point of time where they're not feeling at their best. I bet you that your unfollowing of me, I feel very confident saying this, was probably also happening at a time where there was things going on with you professionally that what is tough about me is that I'm suffocating to like, this is what it is. And a lot of times that's, to your point, that's not what someone wants to hear right now because they're in a tough part. But I think that for me, I don't think I avoid that subject matter. I never felt that it was a major, in fact, Crush It, my original kind of platform book. I talk about making $50,000 a year and working 9 to 5. And if you're actually happy and have no anxiety, you're a winner. So I think that, I've never personally associated with me being romantic or putting hustle on a pedestal. I've always thought of it as one of the 4 to 7 meaningful ingredients. But for me, that was always trumped by love your process over the things that come along with it. So yeah, I don't really think about it. Yeah. I stopped using the word hustle because it was weaponized against me. And I just changed it and used the word work ethic because I think it matters. I don't think anyone watching here is delusional enough to think that you can just wish meaningful outcomes. Yeah. And I think a lot of times when I was using like, you got to go hard, it was if you're complaining or if you want to build some sort of empire, like this is one of the ingredients.
Yeah. You hit on something actually very big for me because that's exactly what happened when I was laid off. The hardest thing for me going from a corporate guy to a entrepreneur was managing myself. I completely underestimated that this is a skill that need to be had. When I had a manager, I worked Monday through Friday. And if she was happy on a Friday at 6 p.m., I was happy. And, I thought a little bit about work here and there. But then all of a sudden, Saturday is no different than a Wednesday and no different than a Tuesday. And so the ability to say, hey, I need to work, or hey, I should watch Netflix, or I should go out tonight became very, very like convoluted in my brain, right? How to kind of learn to manage myself. It's an actual thing that I had to learn.
And it's hard. And to your point, the other thing that's very tough from going from employee to entrepreneur is you knew where your paycheck was coming from. So to your point, you have this guy showing up in your screen, like screaming at a time where you're like scared if you're going to make it. Sometimes it's incredibly motivating. And other times it's, hey, I need to stop listening to Gary for a little while because it's not the right medicine or things that I need to be hearing. I've always been incredibly detached from my belief that I was the right thing for every person at every moment. I think that I'm very clear on what I believe in. I believe my intent is incredibly pure. And so that has given me incredible peace of mind of when I'm red hot, like, my brand and my relevance and my heat also ebbs and flows. There's times where I'm incredibly on fire and there's other times where like I'm Charlie Brown and everyone's heard enough from me and they don't need it. But when at an 8 billion person level, I know that today is the day someone needs to hear patience or hard work. And that keeps me motivated to put out content because I believe in the things that I talk about.
One of the best things I learned from you was, especially in content, was celebrate, don't get too excited when you get a viral video.
Yeah.
And conversely, don't get too down when you have a flop. And that was so profound to me because the brain is very, has addictive personalities. These algorithms are written to addict us, right?
You know what's funny? I'd like to jump in on that. The algorithms are written to be relevant to us, meaning there's been a similar to the way I think I got mislabeled as hustle porn. I think the platforms have become a scapegoat. So the algorithms are actually written for relevance. So no crap, I get endorphin hits from the New York Jets. It's my passion, but you might not. The algorithms are written for relevance in your interest graph. I think we have become incredibly good at blaming them. And that's why I jumped in right now. I think for everyone who's listening, I could not challenge you more. You want to be less addicted to your phone? Go to your Instagram right now and search 5 things you're not interested in. I'm not interested in high fashion. I'm not interested in race cars, even though Formula One was amazing. I'm not interested in hard liquor. I'm not interested in golf. If I went right now into my Instagram and TikTok and typed in all the things I just mentioned, followed 6 accounts and liked 20 pieces of content across the board, tomorrow I would open up my phone. Tomorrow I would open my phone and it would have content around these things and I'd be off my phone in 3 minutes. I think it's time for us to be a little bit more mature about this. I think we've become incredibly good at blaming these platforms for our own shortcomings. I think I, as a content creator, do something similar, which is why I'm bringing it up. I think we need a little more accountability on this. And so the algorithms are written for relevance and interest, which then trigger endorphins. And I think that, I hope that helped someone understand how to manage their algos a little bit.
Yeah. When we talk about TikTok, you were early on to call TikTok as a big thing. What's next?
Well, I think live streaming is very big. I think someone like you could do extremely well if you live streamed. I think you going on TikTok Live or on Twitter Spaces or Twitch or Kick and doing a news show daily live with interviews would be very successful for you. I'm very hot on that right now.
Really? I feel like a lot of people don't do appointment viewing online. I mean, I know there's a market share for live, don't get me wrong, but you think it's going to grow?
I think there's a ton of examples that are the counter to that. TTPN is like a big thing in your space that I think people tune in for. More importantly, I think you don't need to do appointment viewing. TikTok, for example, if you're active on live and you're holding an audience, they will just put you in the For You page. That doesn't require appointment viewing. So I don't think of live streaming as required appointment viewing. I would also say that if I was Clancy, the CEO of Twitch, I would tell you an unbelievable amount of data that supports people do consume live with appointment viewing. So I think live streaming is huge. I'm obsessed with live social shopping. The QVC-ification of social media is here. We've seen each other in Asia in the past. And so this has been a huge thing in China for a long time. I think it's finally here in the West.
Is it? Do you think it's because I remember in 2021, TikTok did a whole thing with Walmart and it was a live shopping. Do you think it's taking a little longer in the US, it seems?
It has. And we're very advanced and far along in comparison to that execution.
But it's here.
Whatnot is a standalone app that's going to do 10 billion in GMV, gross merchandise value this year. Most people don't even know what Whatnot is. TikTok Shop is annihilating it in the US now. So I think we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so you always talk about kindness. Do you think as a society, we are more kind or less kind than a couple years ago?
More kind.
Yeah, really?
Yes. But I believe that that most people would say less kind. I think we're in cycles.
Okay.
And I think we are just in a cycle right now where we're just deciding to overfocus on the 0.0001% of bad. I don't know how else to explain this to people then. Every time you're like, but what about this or this murder or this bad thing? I'm like, yes. And there are 8.3 billion people on Earth and there was an ungodly amount of kindness today. I think that we have become infatuated. I think that the political landscape around most of the world is incredibly polarizing, but I actually believe we are more kind. We continue to progress in many, many ways. I believe that people are hyper focused on the negativity right now.
And some of that's biological too, right? You know, like the cavemen days, we're wired to see what's going to attack us.
I would also say that we've had a lot of prosperity, and a lot of first world countries in Europe and the US and others have over-coddled in this last generation of parenting, which has made people incredibly insecure and soft. And so I think I get enormous amounts of, in a world where I'm getting millions of views a week across platforms, not only on my own platform, but other people posting my stuff, I get dozens and hundreds of negative comments or attacks. I spend no time on it. I spend enough time to make sure that I'm not losing my way. I don't want to be delusional, right? I don't want to be in an echo chamber, but I do not sit and dwell on my mistakes or negative comments. I think most people do. And I think that has a lot to do with modern parenting, much more than modern technology.
Being too soft on kids?
I think so. I think less sports, more 8th place trophies, less merit, less fighting. Believe it or not, I think little schoolyard fight taught people humility and to show respect. Everyone's a tough guy on Twitter. I think parents are involved in kids' lives too much.
Interesting.
Meaning like they're protecting. Parents fight kids' fights these days. They write their papers. They yell at teachers. Yeah, I think modern parenting, well intended, by the way. I think modern parents thought being very involved in their kids' lives was a good thing. And to a degree, of course it is. But I think when you start to fight a kid's fight, the payroll, I think we grew up in an era where like maybe you would borrow money from parents, but now so many kids are on the payroll in their 20s and 30s. I think we've lost our way a little bit.
And how about the male kind of loneliness epidemic? A lot of males getting, left behind in their 20s and to that point of kind of still living at home.
I think there's a female loneliness as well. Obviously, I'm very aware of the male. I have a lot of male fans and I understand that.
Yeah.
I think there's some truth to that, of course. Again, I think sometimes that lacks accountability.
The fix is going outside, grabbing a coffee, grabbing a beer, sports, right? Basic stuff.
Again, but people are insecure. People are insecure. Here's my main thing. We're very quick to being like, but they said we were losers. And I'm like, well, if in this scenario, if the left is saying you're a loser, why'd you believe them? We need to get into a place of like, why do you believe? When I'm being bullied, AKA when someone's attempting to bully me, I don't believe them. Do
you see it as a projection of them?
Of course. I actually feel wildly sympathetic. I feel like when someone is attacking, it comes from a place of insecurity, a lack of confidence. And so, I tell a lot of my guy youthful friends or admirers who are like, yeah, but what they want to say, the women or the opposite sex or the left. I'm like, why do you believe them? And I really do think that we've parented in a way, I really believe this, that we've parented in a way in the last 30, 40 years that has been very focused on blaming. A lot of fingers and not enough thumbs. I believe that, for example, when you said, hey, Gary, I unfollowed you, I created context to why I felt that I was mislabeled. But in my brain, as I was talking, I was also thinking about, I took on accountability and decided, oh, wait, the word hustle's being weaponized. I didn't cry. I changed it to the word work ethic. I believe that when you unfollowed me, that was me not bringing you value at that time. I take on that accountability. I don't think that means that I'm not valuable. I think the same day you unfollowed me for that word of like hard work helped someone. But me losing with you is on me, not you. But it was also about what's going on in your world that made that happen. And I think that balanced ability to have conviction in what you're doing, and I know what my intent is, and I know what it is, but also understanding, well, it wasn't what was right for you at that time. That's a balance of confidence and accountability that I think a lot of people could get value out of. And that continues to motivate me to put out that kind of content and answer this question the way I just did.
The confidence is really interesting. I think more people would strive to have that kind of confidence where they could analyze the way you're analyzing.
I think my confidence comes from my intent. I think most people realize they don't actually care about other people. I think most people deep down in their loneliness know that they're making pretend to put out good content because they want your money.
And it's ego driven.
Correct. I want your likes. I want your money. I know how to get likes and how to get money without you. I did it before I was this.
And when in your life did you reach that point?
Pretty early, because I lived the life that I'm trying to get people to understand the value of, which is I played sports and games every day of my life. I was losing constantly. I grew up in New Jersey in tough neighborhoods, so there was a lot of scrapping and fighting, and I also grew up in guy culture in New Jersey in the 80s and 90s. My best friends made fun of me 24 hours a day. That was our love language. So I got very accustomed to it. I was good at sports, but then eventually not good at it because I wasn't big or strong or fast enough. So I lost. I was an immigrant. I got bad grades. So grown-ups were telling me I was a loser. I got accustomed to losing quickly. And that actually made me not scared of losing. This is why straight A students that grew up in middle class or upper middle class or rich families are so vulnerable in their early 20s. Wow. They're not accustomed to losing. The world is losing. They start to lose and they're like, what is this? They look around for like, where's the help? The help's not there. They start to get upset.
I'm surprised you didn't bring up parenting, like parents, your relationship with your parents, right? Obviously your parents didn't coddle you for getting eighth place in sports. Do you think that has a big role too?
Oh my God. I mean, you probably know this because you know a little bit about me. I think 15% of my content is talking about my mother being the best mother of all time. Like, I'll tell you another thing that makes me work. I don't think that Gary Vee is me. I'm the byproduct of Tamara and Sasha Vaynerchuk, immigrant upbringing in America. I'm completely detached from, that's where the confidence comes from. I don't get validation from the money I make or the attention I garner because I think I'm the byproduct of something dramatically bigger than me.
I just want to talk about AI. So what should more creators be thinking about when it comes to AI? Obviously, like we're using it in our back end. Using
it, not being scared of it. I think creators should be making fake characters with it more.
Like AI influencer?
Yeah, I think you should create an AI dog and build up the dog and then monetize the AI dog.
On my account or on a separate account?
Yes, and.
He's my little sidekick. Yes, and.
And your fake girlfriend and your fake brother and your fake mentor. I think everyone's going to be in the intellectual property business. That's probably, if you're an influencer that has attention, creating IP to give the attention to, I think is a very good idea.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Last question. Persian, Mona, you married a Persian.
Yes.
What's your favorite Persian food?
This is very interesting. So,
congratulations, by the way. It looked like an amazing.
The actual true answer to this question is the two things that I consume most when all the Persians get together is actually also the thing that I most consumed as a Russian, which is sunflower seeds and tea. The amount of sunflower seeds and tea while playing Hokm Shalem, that card game has become my Persian life. We consume a ton of real dates, is a big part of it. But
lots of fresh fruit everywhere you go.
Mona's gonna laugh because I always call it like Gorma Sarbi or whatever, but I don't remember what the official name is.
Gorma Sabzi. Very close. Very close.
Thank you, brother. That would probably be the official dish. But the reality is the sunflower seed tea combo is like, it's pretty scary how much tea and sunflower seeds I consume.
Especially like I'm Persian. I grew up late night parties at 11 midnight. They're all just chugging the tea, and it's like it runs through them like water.
Yeah, the late night food culture. Back to your point, like the whole like nap in the middle of the day, but like actually like that's like the 2 o'clock in the morning, like still eating dinner thing has been really like a fun addition for me. Russians did it different. My Russian uncles and relatives just drank vodka and they'd go to sleep at like 7 because they were complete alcoholics. So this has been a fun addition to my life.
Amazing. Gary, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of What's Uptin, where I bring you inside the minds driving tech, money, and power. Follow along on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow my personal account on Instagram at Uptin. Would love to connect with you.